Hello there and welcome back to another day where I have some free time. And in today's development of nobita.h, our own build system, well, not exactly new, just imitating Zig, but in C. Well, our new goal would be, as said in the last video, to be custom asserts. Though I guess it would be more nice to say if it's custom error handling. And with the goal of not just crashing, but instead it would still continue on running through the functions, but it would just fail until it reaches the freeing of the heap allocated stuff. And another goal would be to add support for custom commands. So support for custom commands before I try to go with multiprocessing in here. So I guess we can start. Open the header. So to mark that the build has failed and the functions should just panic and return nothing, I guess we can add a global variable, a boolean that would say that the build has failed. That is initialized to false. And this would just be my preference. And that would be to separate the static functions that are that directly calls the syscalls and the static functions that does not directly call syscalls, to easily see where I should add where should I add the API OS specific APIs. And I would add more functions here specifically for file operations, seeing if the file does exist or not. It would take a path. Consequently, I want one for directories as well. So this would call the fork and exec syscalls. This would just call the C standard library stuff. And make dir would call it make dir, and that is a syscall. So I think that is fine now. First, let us add the new ones after the call is a newer. So I guess we can do this by just adding stat for now. So distract stat, and if the stat fails of path with the buffer, that should return -1 and it would return false. So the file does not exist. Consequently, should be the same with the the directory as well. After that, what we can return is, well, maybe the file exists in the system, but it is a directory, and that is not good. We can check that with an S macro, specifically sdir. it would check the struct stat and its st mode, the file mode. So if it's a directory, then return false, and if it's not, return true. So I guess the not operator would do just nicely for that. And in here, I want the opposite result. Now for our assert, well, instead of a function, we can add a, what do you call this? A macro, well, another macro. Define nobita assert. That would take an eval and the format of the output if it fails and the extra arguments. Though I guess I should also add no, instead of format, maybe I can just abandon the asserts altogether. And if it's null, if pointer name, I can just check it in an if statement. If it's equal to null, then it would fail pretty hard via printing to fprintf to standard error saying failed to initialize vector named that, and we can stringify the argument of a macro with just a single hashtag called name. And considering that there are no errors appearing here yet inside Lua line, we're probably fine. Now after printing the error, the build failed shall be set to true. After that, there should be a check before the start of the function if the build has already failed. And since this is it's still a loop, calling break on it would immediately return from this function like macro. And here in free, well, if calloc failed, it would return null, and freeing a null pointer doesn't really do anything, as said in the manual page of free. Let's see. If the pointer is null, no operation is performed. So no need to add if the build failed, do nothing in there. Here in the append is where I need to add a few more stuff, where I need to remove the assert and add an if statement if it's not null. No, if it is null, then it would return. Now before that, it would break the mini loop, no, the one-time loop, and then print to standard error. That is failed to append data to vector named %s with the name of name, I guess, vector named instruct %s with the pointer there. What else? I think it's fine. Now it can set nobita build failed into true. Get out of vector append. Next up, in vector append vector, I can just add a check if the build has already failed. And since it would call vector append anyway, it would be fine. In here, in add exe. Well, if the build failed, it would return null. Now if the build failed during build at target, it would return null here in nobita build at something, and it would try to access it and change its type, and that is unacceptable, accessing null like that. So I guess I should also check if it's null, then just return. But instead of just return, well, we can add a go to, I guess. Go to ret, and we're fine now. I think we are with that. So return, then a check if L is equal to null. Then go to ret. What else? Well, same thing in static library, but forgot it would change it here. Then set build tools. I want to remove the malloc and stir copy things and just get the pointer. Since if it's done the same in like build Linux here and just added static variables, static pointers, it would be fine. And we can remove this and just say assert AR is not equal to null, but we're actually removing that as well. So if the build tools compiler is equal to null, it would return after saying build failed and rfprintf standard error saying that compiler for target has been set to null, which is bad. So get the target name, then set the compiler, do the same to AR, Let's see, compiler, no, archiver for target library, and it would return. Then if it's not, then it would set AR to AR for that target. The same with the build tool options. I would keep the conditions and return, then fprintf. Let's see, what should I put here? Um, the compiler options for target %s is null, or just say one of the compiler options. Of course, get the target name, set nobita build failed, actually make the function fail if the nobita build failed is true before that, before this. Well, even here as well, return null. Now where are we? In build tool options. Well, instead of few mallocs and star copies, you can just get the pointer itself to reduce allocations. Though before that, I kind of want to see how much memory this would take normally. Uh-oh. No, just compile it normally. Wait a minute. I've already done the modifications, so maybe I'll just look in the other videos instead how much allocations it did. Anyways, remove the allocation and get the if statement ready. One of the compiler options, archiver, create options for target library, %s is null. Maybe it might be better if this is just for static library. And for the other one, for just the shared library. Shared lived opt and share the if statement just different conditions. So create options. Nope. Compiler shared lib option for target library is null. Now for the prefix, custom prefix, I do not support that yet. So that can be commented out. Where is it? Around here. And let's get back to work. In adding the compile flags, well, remove the extra allocation here. So we'll be removing an assert there as well. And add sources. Well, get current working directory is a syscall, but I'll be going there later. So if the assert fails, that it is null, it would print this to standard error. Set the build to be failed and return. Now in here, well, no need for extra allocations, and I can just do a dir append of the cache directory as done later on with the argument and null. So this shall be the source file now in the cache directory. And to remove some more lines of code, I can just call star to find the dot for me, the last dot. And when it finds it, well, after the dot shall become an O, and after the O, it shall become a null delimiter. After that, instead of appending the copied source, we just append the argument. And in here, no need for another dir append. Just duplicate O and get the thing. So if O2 is null, print the failure. Then what else? Call could not get what could it not get? Uh could not get object counterpart of source %s for target %s. So the source would be arg right now, and the target would be name. Oops. Set nobita build to true. Return. Now before it would return, free the current working directory first, and the periodic arguments. Well, then it would append just O, and it would just free O2. Now the allocation should have been reduced by a lot just from this function alone. In here, the same as the compile flags, just add the arg pointer. Instead, the dependencies is fine, though I am forgetting something, which is at the start of each function, should check if the build has already failed. And what else that has an assert? I guess not much. Well, except here. If the parent directory is null, so print it normally, standard error. It should not be null. And say the target name as well. Target name. While in there, set the build to have failed and return. And I guess this can be done normally now. As there are no extra asserts. In here, if the build has failed or the name is equal to null, printf um, a target's name should not be null and return after um, after saying it has failed. In here, well, the assert is fine for allocating the target. What is not fine is another assert, which would error out this way. So could not create target. And end it at that. After this, to reduce the number of lines of code a bit, just make a call to calloc and remove the null things and false, as that is just 0. Now in fork exec, guess same thing really. Well, instead of returning null, it would return nothing. And here, if it's -1, then it failed. Fork failed and return after setting the failed value once more. to true. Well then, what else? Instead of exiting in failure when exec VP fails, it would set the error value to error no, but that is not defined yet. Obviously, that should not be here, nor time.h should be there. So should be error no dot h back to fork exec. So it would return with error no, then instead of freeing it already, just get a status integer that will be passed on wait PID. Then if the W macro, say if exited with the status, so this should return a boolean, I think. Yep, if this is a boolean, then call fprintf to standard error, say process %s did not exit properly. So the process would be full command. That is why it has not been freed first. Well, it would go to free anyway. So go to the end. After setting the build flag, the failed flag to true, and it would also fail if the exit status if that is not equal to exit success. So the process failed successfully. Unsuccessfully. I guess we can do p error as well after setting the error no to the thing, the exit status. But we'll add that later on. In the IR append, let's see. How much time have we? Oh my, 34 minutes. Well, I was correct when saying the error handling stuff would be a long episode. So the failing point could be malloc. This one single malloc. So if it's equal to null, then return null fprintf standard error failed to allocate memory for stir concat. That's all the information you'll get. So make that true, and starcat would not really fail if it's allocated properly. Here in make dir recursive, well, same thing really. Well, instead of returning null, it should return nothing. Though p2, that is null, and it would error out pretty badly. By saying could not copy path for make dir recursive. Oops. And the path would be the path. Set it to fail, then return. Yep, we're close to done. And considering I've made the directory function earlier, let us use it now. If the directory exists for the path p2, and if it does not, it would run make dir here as well at the end, then free p2. What else? Build target, so it would only return if the target has already been built or everything has already failed. And then what else? These asserts. So if the name is null, then fprintf say could not copy target name in build target. Now the target name would also be printed. Then return after setting that the build has failed. What else? If the current directory is null, that is pretty bad. So I just say could not get current working directory for target name. Then in here, it would already fail. Here as well. I think we're good to go. Maybe. But I cannot really test malloc failing yet, as that would take more time. Now for copy, just check if the build has already failed. Then return. Well, if it succeeded, say the end, and just print that it actually copied it. Nobita copy source destination. Then remove these asserts. fprintf standard error. Let's see if the um this is equal to null, then it failed to open it. Of course, add some more information. The destination file. Oops. Then set build failed, then return. Same thing for the source. Just change up the words a little bit. And what is actually printed. Then if the destination file successfully opens but the source fails, then it should close. Now, why did I write F open? F close the destination. And in here, well, I can remove that assert, but if the read and write is not equal, then fprint. So much for manual error handling, eh? So read and write counts for copying files, %s did not match. Source and destination. No, say the build has failed and go to the end without printing that it copied it. Now in main, well, we gotta remove this freeze, especially the compile flags and sources and the link flags. Now let us try it. Build yourself. And let's see if we have something. Okay. So how about if I remove the cache and the build? Would it say it copied it? It did. And the address sanitizer did not give any complaints. How about how much memory does Valgrind say we use? Okay. We now use around 16 kilobytes, which is pretty nice. Well, I guess I may just add how much memory we used back then in the description. Though, how long did we take here? Around 45 minutes. Well, maybe I should really get back to finishing this video. Wrong file. Back to the README and mark this as done, though I don't know if it would work yet. Maybe we'll test that later with a malloc that would return null deliberately. Still though, for the next video, we would add support for custom commands, and maybe we will have enough time for an implementation of a queue for multiprocessing in here. And now I thank you for sticking with me this far, and hopefully, may I see you next time.